My name is Lisa Castillo Richmond, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Partnership for College Completion. We are an Illinois-based nonprofit organization that works to effectuate systems-level change for racial and socioeconomic equity in our colleges and universities in the state. It's such a pleasure to be with so many of our partners in this room today. We do that work through policy and advocacy, through partnerships with colleges, universities, offering technical support and professional development, and also powered by data and research. So happy to be with you all. As you can imagine, systems change work faces a lot of resistance. It is a long-term commitment, as you're hearing the theme of many of these panels today. And it requires a lot of work. It requires us to be flexible to change. And so many people doing so many different things and is so heavily reliant on those relationships. We have an incredible panel with us today that I'm about to introduce you to. Not only are they scholars and scholar practitioners and administrator scholars and researchers, but also I heard they were the panel that was voted most likely to be the one that you want to go out for happy hour with, just saying. So in the order that we're on the stage here, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Kimberly Hollingsworth, the president of Olive-Harvey College. Next to her, we have Pura Carina Gonzalez, who's the director of innovation and strategic initiatives at OMD. Then we have one of the most recent graduates and an OMD Scholar from Olive-Harvey College, Tamika Bernstein. And last but not least, we have Marvin Slaughter, who is the portfolio manager at UChicago InclusiveEconomy Lab. Okay, so I'm going to direct my first question to President Hollingsworth. When you heard that there might be the potential to expand the footprint of the OMD partnership within city colleges, why did you decide that it should start at Olive-Harvey, and how does this partnership support your goals?
So I appreciate that question. A little context and then a story, because we got to end the day with the story. And so Olive-Harvey College is located on the southeast side of Chicago. We are a federally recognized, predominantly Black institution, but we are also an emerging HSI. Over 70% of our students are Pell eligible. Over 50% are first-generation college students, and nearly 90% of our students come as developmental education students upon placement. And so with those stats, you would say it's a no-brainer, right? Obviously, that's what I thought. But there were some other data elements and data points that we were looking at when Olive-Harvey College was selected to be the pilot institution, which leads us to the story. And I told this story to the presidents. All of the presidents have an opportunity to meet with the leadership at the district office, and we were having a meeting. I was having a meeting with Dr. Potter and with Veronica and with the chancellor. And they've been extremely modest, let me tell you. These folks know everything about the colleges. You cannot walk into these meetings lacking. You really have to know your stuff. And so this particular conversation and meeting that we were having was obviously around retention and completion. That obviously is a priority of the city colleges and definitely of the chancellor. And so Dr. Potter, thank you, puts up my data about my retention and completion rates. And we're talking about outcomes, particularly for Black students. And needless to say, they weren't where we would like them to be, not where I would have liked them to be. 61% for Black students, fall to spring retention, 66% overall. During the pandemic, our retention rate fall to fall dropped below 39%. That's devastating. And so the chancellor is like, look, you gotta come up with some strategies, that are gonna move the needle and really impact our students. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, this is not easy work. And if you know the chancellor, he does this, I'm like, you gotta stretch yourself, you gotta stretch a little more. And I'm like, I can't stretch anymore, I don't have the resources. And Veronica says, if money wasn't an option, it wasn't a problem, what would you do? I said, you know what? I'm looking at our students who have been in the OMD program and looking at the RCT report and, just the overall success of these students. All my students should have an opportunity to be in OMD. And Veronica and Dr. Potter and the chancellor looked at each other. Now we're on Zoom, so they really didn't look at each other, but their eyes kind of brightened up, and they were like, would you be interested in serving as the pilot for OMD? And I, quite frankly, was honored. The chancellor, I've been at the institution for almost 5 years, and he felt it was poised and positioned to lead this work. And I got to shout out my team who stayed this entire time because they are the doers of the work. And so, it just made perfect sense for the institution. It really aligned and complemented all of the work that we had been doing with our student success framework, with our tiering. It aligned with our equity goals and our equity plan. And so we thought that, why not Olive-Harvey College? And here we are today.
I think you hit on something really interesting. The facts of this is that so many, as the prior panel shared, so many things lined up to make this happen, right? Philanthropy, the institutional effort required, the community-based partner in OMD, and on and on and on. And I think that is one of the unique things about this. So Pura, Carina, you're leading the effort to adapt the traditional OMD model on the ground at Olive-Harvey. How are you approaching this task, and what are some of the components that you are preserving in the traditional model, and how are you innovating?
Great. Mic check, all right. First, I just want to say happy afternoon. Thank you all for staying. Y'all are the real MVPs, so shout out to all of you. And so when talking about the approach, first and foremost, it was about connection and collaboration. And I have to start off with a major shout out to this incredible leader right here next to me, because honestly, this would not be possible without trusted leadership, as Anish and the panel before us spoke about, not only at the city colleges level, so from the chancellor level, but also at the college. So President Hollingsworth came in with a vision, and her team trusted her and said, okay, we're not really sure about this, but we're gonna trust you, and all right, let's figure this out. So that is a critical piece to the puzzle. The next thing was taking a learning posture. So the timeline for this was aggressive. And so, even internally at OMD, I'm sure Olive-Harvey had their own conversations. But we were, looking at each other like we're gonna do the best that we can do. And so taking even just a couple of meetings to learn, to say, hey, Olive-Harvey, what are the initiatives that you all are focusing on? What are your goals? What's working right now within your teams, within your programs, and where do you all wanna improve? Then taking that information and using it to build a baseline for a model that we were collectively building. And so then from here was just having consistent conversations. So again, shout out to the Olive-Harvey team, because this was a sliver. Yes, hands up, yes, round of applause. I just feel truly honored to have worked side by side with this team and to continue learning from them, because this is a sliver of their everyday job. And so to take the time to meet with OMD 2-3 times a week to try and figure this out and identify what are the shared goals and where are those moments and pockets of synergy for this model. So meeting with the deans of enrollment, instruction, first year experience, advising, just student services. So really getting into the mix with the college and really understanding, what's in it for you, what's in it for me, and then how do we find that through line.
I just want to add, Pura and I joked a lot because I forgot I worked for city colleges. I really thought I worked for OMD for a while. I had so many OMD meetings on my calendar, but that's just how important that work really was. And we were launching our first year experience. And what our mantra is now at the college, we don't have, it's not OMD, it's not first year experience, it's our first year experience. And it took a lot of coaching and talking to faculty and staff to garner buy-in, to convince folks like these aren't two separate entities, that we need to truly integrate what we're doing through our first year experience, but also staying true to a lot of the services and elements of our first year experience that we provided too. Because, you know, advising had their perception of what OMD does or didn't do. And so it was a lot of coaching, a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, and this team was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And just to name too, like we're here for learning, right? And also to say what's working and to keep it real in terms of where we're still learning. And so as we are moving through this process, obviously we don't have it perfect. We've made some mistakes or there's been some bumps in the road. And I think each entity coming together to really say, all right, we're invested in this, in the shared vision, and also knowing that we're not going to get it right the first time, but how do we continuously come back and know, okay, let's try again. Let's figure this out again. So I think that's exactly it, knowing that we want to align to what's happening at the college, and also that takes some time to get there.
And again, that through line of partnership, relationships, people, connections. Tamika, I want to turn to you. First of all, congratulations, grad.
Thank you.
You have unique insights as an OMD scholar and recent grad. So share a little bit about how you experienced the program and what you're thinking about this expansion.
Okay, so just give me like 1 minute because they didn't kind of answer all my little questions I wanted to put down here. So I just want to say, I'm on a serious note, but if you want to know if this program is worth your time and your investment, this is for sure. I come from a disadvantaged community, and this worked. And I came in during the pandemic, so people were failing, I came in. So it actually took stress off me. So I went through the City of College to sign up for supply chain logistics. So I'm also a part of Partners of Education too as well. So Partners of Education was like, nah, you can't get no loan. We're not doing no loans. I'm like, oh, well, how am I supposed to do that? They say, well, Pell Grant, and then OMD. And I was like, OMD? I never heard of OMD. So they was like, yeah, so you're going to go through them. I went through the intake and everything. So what I want to say is that each, I guess it would be like the financial part, that worked. Not only was the stipends, but the accuracy and the time in which I received them was so important. Again, I'm doing a pandemic. So the funds is not where they need to be and stuff like that. So that took the stress off. Then just investing in the academic, like just my different courses that I needed to take, guiding me to this person, guiding me to that person. And then my PC just being so supportive, like, oh, Tamika, you need to do this, you need to be here. This is where we had the Saturday workshops and stuff like that. And I was like, well, because I've never been strategic in my schedule. So when you get with OMD, you got to be on point. They're not playing, you know? So I did that. Then the professionalism, like the different workshops. So like we can go to school, but then to have those extra workshops, like how to sit up, like even just etiquette or how you should speak or how you should dress, how you should sit, just like really tapping into your vision. So what I love about OMD in the city of Chicago, I want to humbly thank you guys because you made my vision visible and touchable, if that makes sense. So it's just like, oh, thank you. Yes. So when you think it doesn't matter or you think it's too small, it does. It's like if I have that vision of my journey, you guys just put those pieces together for me. And you made me understand how to put those pieces together, if that makes sense. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So
That's the why.
I just wanted to let you guys know that the support is definitely, and I'm glad for whoever chased the vision and not the money. I appreciate you for, just waiting your time and just stand in the vision, because that's the most important thing, is to be in the vision. The money is gonna come. Just stay true to us, our students, because a lot of things we do not know. It's not like it's out there for us to know what is offered to us, if that makes sense. So speaking and being with OMD, the city of Chicago, colleges, these different programs, you guys are awesome. I'm humbly grateful for you guys. Just stay in the vision, you guys. Just stay in the vision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marvin, the findings from the RCT were one of the major drivers of the expansion. How is the RCT informing the program design and the expansion?
Mic check. Well, excellent question. The two most important ways that the study kind of informed the rollout and the expansion is targeting who the program goes to and when we notify those students. Kelly mentioned this earlier, but the largest effect for students were for students that applied while they were in high school. Not only did the program impact persistence and degree attainment, but whether a student even enrolled in college to begin with. So those are two things that are eye-popping and very transformative. While the RCT can't necessarily tell us what component of our, OMD is most responsible for those program effects, we just heard from Tamika that there are all of those different, all of the different things that OMD offers, from the professional to the academic supports to the personal supports. Each and every single one of those categories has something that a scholar can benefit from. So.
Thank you. This question is for all of you to kind of take it in any direction you want. But as we mentioned a little bit, this partnership is a unique public-private partnership where a lot of partners are coming together at the table to do something. But also, this may impact how you are thinking about implementation. Could you share a little bit from your own perspectives why you think this partnership model is important and what needs to be in place for it to be successful?
So I'll start. I think the fact that this is just not a best practice, right? This is an evidence-based best practice. We have data to support that the work that OMD is doing is really making an impact on the students at the City Colleges of Chicago. And so I think that's first and foremost. And something we really touched upon, especially in academia and in terms of like data integrity and trusting what you read and see, like trust was really important in this partnership. It took a lot for, an outsider to come in and kind of unveil some of the things that we were doing that really weren't, making an impact on students and telling us, hey, you need to do it this way because this is the right way. And so to have two teams, my academic team and my staff, and then to have OMD at the table, it was a lot of contention at first. I'm just going to be honest, and I think if we're just being fully transparent, that no one really wanted to hear the bad news, how bad we really were doing, but understanding that ultimately the outcomes for our students would prevail. I think that was our North Star. Like we saw the bigger picture. And so we see OMD as the blueprint and the framework to improve our student outcomes. And I think the fact that we trust this team, we've seen that it works, that we're just super excited about scaling it further for the future.
Yeah, I'll chime in then. So just exactly what you said, President Hollingsworth, because what I think about is really what opportunity this creates, right? And when we think about communities coming together, really it's about finding that common goal and working together to move the needle toward that. And so it's having real honest conversations, coming to the table and saying, hey, OMD, we are here in service of you. We are here to amplify the incredible work that is happening at Olive-Harvey College, at Malcolm X College, at City Colleges of Chicago, and understanding that we can also add capacity, right? And so it's having those real conversations around where is there just not quite enough capacity, and it's not because there's lack of intent or desire or even like wantingness or willingness from the college teams. It's really about how do we work smarter, right? Not harder, toward a common goal. And then really trusted leadership. I mean, you said it. I mean, powerful, trusted leadership who really have those relationships where people will get behind you and say, okay, I may still have some questions about this, but I trust that you are approaching this work from a place of equity, from a place of understanding, from a place that is student-centered. And ultimately, that's what we're here for, right? And then partnerships, intentional partnerships. So we heard a lot about partnerships all day today, right? So how I think about this too is our role, it's a marathon, and OMD is here just for one leg of it, right? But who are we thinking about as we're handing our students off to bachelor institutions and employer partners? But then also, on the other hand, how are we receiving students from CPS, from high school, and how are we preparing them as they're coming into city colleges, and what's that bridge, the bridge building that has to happen on both ends? I have more, but I'm gonna pause now because I can keep going and like. Yes.
Okay, so I want to say it like this. If you continue to mean what you say and say what you mean, it helps us a lot. So through this effort of you guys, I just want to let you know that I graduated with my degree. Not only my degree, I got advanced certification, I got the basic certification, I also got the forklift operation training, and plus I made the deans and the honors through OMD and CCC. So again, it works. Just mean what you say and say what you mean. That's it.
I would like to first start by saying collaboration can be difficult. Working together and being vulnerable and transparent can be difficult. The importance of partner buy-in and engagement can't be understated in this endeavor. And on this note, I want to acknowledge Pura and President Hollingsworth for being the glue and the leadership, as well as acknowledging the OHC team, y'all wave y'all hands, the OMD team and the IEL team for really coming together as a team. You know, it's important to acknowledge the fact that teamwork that uplifts and values the contributions of each of its members has the power to be transformational in a way that data might not always show. And we're in that endeavor right now, determining how this integrative work, how impactful it can be, because this is something that is new. Like Marianne said earlier, you know, research is not just for publications, it's for change. And IEL is really intentional about choosing its partners based on our values, one of which is fostering lasting relationships, right? Conducting science in service of cities, checking our privilege and elevating equity and inclusion, and embracing a growth mindset. And we're actively doing that in this process for the expansion pilot as we speak. You know, the last thing that I'll say is we can be traveling to the same destination, right? Let's make sure that we keep in mind that we have the same destination in mind, despite the fact that we might have route changes. We have to be adaptable, and that's one thing that the pilot expansion is teaching us all as a team is the adaptability, but keeping in mind the end goal.
Yes to everything you guys are saying. I want to remind everyone in the audience, if you have questions, jot them down and raise them up. Someone will grab them, and we'll make sure we pose those questions to our group. So one last question I have for all of you who want to respond is, in some ways, I think the combination of supports offered by the OMD program seems logical. But why aren't more programs, institutions offering these kinds of supports to students when we know they're effective?
We're all the philanthropists in the house at this point. Well, you know, and we're guilty of this, even when we're like building our budgets. I'm going to be honest. When we're building our budgets and I'm talking to my team and they send me their budget, I'm like, okay, we're doing everything to cut away from the classroom, right? Because we are educational institutions, and so instruction is really important. But where we really need to put the money is where our mouth is, and that's where our students are struggling relative to mental health and wellness, you know, food insecurity, housing insecurity, domestic violence, you know, just life, especially on the southeast side of Chicago and across the city of Chicago. And I say all that to say support costs money. We were recently writing a grant, and they looked at the dollar per student, how much it cost. And they were like, oh, no, 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 that's way too much. Da, da, da. I said, well, how much does poverty really cost? How much does, being formally incarcerated, how much does it cost to educate that student? How much does it cost to educate someone who is a drug addict, or their parent is a drug addict, but they still want to go to school? And so it's really hard to put a dollar amount on it, but obviously money matters. And so, we just ask that, as we continue this good work, as we are having these amazing outcomes, that it costs, and that, it's just really important to get the support of having a private and public relationship. And so, to Pura's point, partnerships really matter. And so it's just a really expensive endeavor, because it just really costs a lot of money to educate those who come really disadvantaged.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That was one of my notes earlier, is funding, funding, funding. It's direct and indirect, right? Direct funding that goes to a student directly in their pocket, but all of the indirect funds that it takes to really run collaborative and cohesive programs, right? And our chief operation officer is like, indirect, yes. But yeah, so that's major, and so absolutely echo everything that was shared. And the thing that I would say, though, is that these supports are happening on campus, right? I think that's the piece that I want to really highlight, is all of these supports are happening on campus, but the thing about 1 Million Degrees is, again, bringing them together and kind of going back to that through line, right? Threading the needle, needing, what is it? Y'all get what I mean, right? We needing the thread, yes. It's been a long day. But yeah, bringing those together and making it clear to students as to why, why are you moving through an experience in this way? Why are we requesting or encouraging you to visit your professors or talk to your advisors or go to see this support service on campus, and then connecting that to their ultimate goal. So again, it's just that additional support, but not to say that these things are not existing on campus. It's just creating that stickiness so there's those connections being made.
My answer is twofold. First, understanding the historical context that has birthed the need for wraparound support services is important. Second, continuing to track outcomes to drive continuous improvement, right? Scaling up from an RCT successfully is rare. And it requires rapid response, a willingness to pivot, and most importantly, an ability to find synergistic activities and to integrate well. All of that relies on trust. The ability for both partner institutions to build from the ground up that type of trust, to trust in the process and the outcomes that you're basing the expansion on. So.
And I'll say one more thing is just student voice. Students at the center, it's almost like, I don't even say it because it just feels like it's understood, but it does need to be said, right? That consistently. And so thank you so much, Tamika, for being here today and sharing your story and your experience. But it's coming back to student stories, because that is really what is going to help us understand what's working, what's not working, and where we have to do better for our students.
Okay, hats off to the audience. They still have some really good questions in there. So let's do a speed round until we get our amazing timekeeper to tell us to cut it off. Okay, how does data sharing work between CCC and OMD? And also, do OMD staff work directly with CCC staff to support students and resolve challenges?
All right, I'll talk through a little that you can chime in too, President. So data sharing is an exciting roller coaster. I'll just say that way. But yeah, I mean, one of the benefits and the new parts of OMD and expansion is that we are making strides towards a data sharing agreement that will allow our team to have access to navigate, have access to certain data fields that would actually create more ease and a streamlined experience for students, to reduce the number of stops that they have to make at a campus, offices or campus support services. So that is a big one. And then
No, yeah, you summed that up. The other part of the question was the second part.
something about
Yes, so OMD staff are actually housed at Olive-Harvey College. Right now, we have 4 PCs, program coordinators. So these folks are here. Our students have direct access to them, and they're not like tucked away in some space and we forget about them. They are there with our advisors. And let me tell you, that was very intentional because our advisors felt some kind of way about the PCs because, you know, they are very knowledgeable and generalist in nature, and they know a lot about the institution. But, you know, the OMD students would forge relationships with these folks. But we also want our students to forge relationships with their advisor. And so we had to have a meeting of the minds and bring them all together. And we said, hey, look, you all complement each other's work. You guys are not in competition with each other. So much so we're going to put you all in the same space. And so, yes, we do work very closely with OMD staff. We have a fellow who is helping with the work to scale this to the other colleges, Adam Price, who has been really instrumental in level setting for us and for the other colleges. So yeah, it's been a really, really integrated process.
There goes that integration piece. There goes that integration piece.
Okay, maybe Marvin, this one's for you. How will you measure the success or progress of the expansion and the partnership as you go? You'll need some shorter term measures other than retention and graduation, and how will you know if it's working?
That is a very loaded question. You know, we've learned a lot so far in the expansion process. And, you know, as we began to kind of benchmark what the benchmarks for success will look like, we're just trying to make sure that we implement with fidelity to the RCT. So, you know, kind of grounding our work in the findings from the RCT, and, you know, ultimately seeing if the results that we see in the expansion pilot align with those of the RCT. I think that's the best answer that I can give right now.
Yeah, can I just add, like, we set some very incremental goals starting off because we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew, and we knew this walking in, and this was a conversation I had with Veronica. Like, we wanted students to opt in. Like, if we got this many students to opt in, that was success for the first year. If we got this many students to fill out the questionnaire, that was a success. If we got those stipends out on time, that was a success. And so we're building upon our small successes to determine, like, long-term what we really need to be looking at. We know for a fact that this will impact retention, impact completion, but we haven't developed that model yet. We're still establishing a baseline at this point.
So true scaling is not that common, right, of evidence-based models. So what seems like the largest burden to securing wraparound services across city colleges and why? And what do you think is the largest burden to scaling?
So I'll take a stab at that. We all, at all of the city colleges, we have support services, and a lot of them are very similar. So students are not getting one thing at one college that they wouldn't get at another college. I think the difficulty of scaling something like an OMD is the unique cultures of all of the 7 city colleges. I gave you the demographic profile of an Olive-Harvey college. My student is very different than a Malcolm X College student. And I worked at Malcolm X College for 11 years, and I've seen the student population change. And the student at Malcolm X is distinctly different from a student at Truman College. So when we're talking about what the true needs of that student is, I think that's going to be a significant challenge to scale because it's going to be different for every institution.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking about this conversation we had with Laura just a few days ago. That was exactly that. We have assumptions about what a foundational model looks like at scale, but to President Hollingsworth's point, we're still learning so much as this is our first year of implementation, really our first semester of implementation. So in moving into the next college, you know, with these assumptions, but also having to understand there are stark cultural differences across the colleges and also stark differences amongst the student population. So it's having that nimble posture while also knowing we have to go in with the research that says we have to stick to some model that we know works, but how do we tweak it to ensure that we are coming to the table, saying, no, we truly do want to collaborate, but understanding where is that give in that. And also data integration. I just have to say that's huge. I mean, it's been one of the biggest hurdles, but I feel like once we get that, like the data and systems integration piece, it's going to be gold. So we're still in the works on that.
Bravo, you guys got through all of those questions, and I just got the signal to wrap it up. So thank you all so much for being here. And a big round of applause for our all-day timekeeper. Thank you.